Mr. Speaker.
Mark Cameron.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Embarrassing. Try and reconcile that if you're a rural New Zealander. The most efficient farmers in the world, and here we are pontificating on the left about how we've got to do more. Scientific debate, I would argue, has been lost on my mates, or by my mates on the left. 2 parts per million, Steve Abel and I have discussed the percentage of methane in the atmosphere. CO2, Steve Abel, CO2, 428 parts per million, used to be 390, it's gone up by 50 parts in 50 years. Admittedly, you are correct, sir, but equally it's been higher in our history. 10 times higher, and here we all are, we're surviving and things are going along chickadee-boo. The left loves the catastrophisation, ended days, everyone's burning. I heard it yesterday in the House, Arena Williams. We're all boiling, literally boiling, she said. God, this is the theatricality that we don't need. Let's have a conversation about common sense. We are the most efficient farmers in the world. Second, I'm not going to apologise for that. Embarrassing? Hardly. It is a celebration, and I just make a couple of notable points. Withstanding, we all acknowledge the nature of being a New Zealander, and we are part of the export global market reality. We're also a significant domestic consumer. The number one issue that we hear all across New Zealand are things are too dear. From a domestic point of view, categorically. In 5 years, for the members on the left, socialists that just want to evangelise about climate all the time, food prices. Let's go through food prices for the everyday Kiwi mum and dad trying to make ends meet. Withstanding, we are also an exporter. What goes on inside New Zealand? Milk has gone up 20%. 20% in 5 years. Try and reconcile that when you're a mum and dad trying to make ends meet. 20%. Red meat has gone up 18%. It's not all inflation. It's not all competition with the foreign market. It has a lot to do with regulatory burden. I argue if we get the methodology on, your side of the House has to say to your constituency, you're going to pay 25 or 30 for your red meat. That's what you're not willing to do because you're not being honest, because we are all, Julianne Ginger, literally burning.
Can I ask members not to have a conversation with each other?
Stop the hyperbole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would argue that we have to have a common sense conversation where we celebrate rural New Zealand. Let's go and believe in the people that have innovated their way through our history. And every time we start running short of the bling, the cash, the notes, the green, the folding, whatever you want to call it, where does the left come out? They celebrate rural New Zealand after they've spent an inordinate amount of time beating them up. I go back to what are the problems we're seeking to fix. Keeping the farmers out of the ETS was logical. By putting them in it, we were going to find 100,000 extra participants. What on earth was that going to cost? Causality again, what did it mean for rural New Zealand? It harmed us. I hear it all the time, evangelical sermons that we care about rural people, we care about the marginal communities, which are often in provincial New Zealand. Guys like Mike Butterick and I go home. That's our part of the world. We get it, mate, don't we? And they are suffering because of a varying degree of regulatory overburden. Let's go back to cost-benefit analysis, causality, cause and effect. I would just ask my mates on the left side of the House, are you willing to get it wrong? I am not. This side of the House is not. And I would say to my constituency as a tie-off and final remark, stop the wokery, start protecting everyday mums and dads that are already paying too much, Glenn Bennett, for their food. And we can hopefully assure an economic future where rural New Zealand is champion of its own future and everyone else's.